as far east from here as Brazil and the US, and we also have, I think we've got a bit of feedback on this of a mic. Got people joining us from as far across as Brazil at one end of the world and indeed Australia at the other end of the world. So really, really pleased to have you all here. ILC UK are the specialist think tank on longevity and its impact on society. For those of you who don't know us, we're one of 16 across the world, so we do have organisations who we work with and partners all across the world. Firstly, perhaps a few thank yous. Really like to thank the Innovation Resource Centre for HR for their support in making this project, this programme of work really, really happen. NICA, and we've got Nic coming up next, for hosting us today and for being a brilliant partner, and I'll come back onto that later. And indeed the judging panel, these awards required a year's worth of work, but including actually judges getting up at very, very silly times in the morning and evening. So we had judges joining us from all sorts of different bits of the world where they were up at 6 o'clock in the morning or 11 o'clock at night. So really, really grateful for all of their time. This year is ILC's 25th anniversary. And actually it's exciting. This is, I think, one of our first real face-to-face events, which is for 2 years, and great to be doing in Newcastle. I suppose just before I pass on to Nic, I think the sort of context for us in terms of why we wanted to do this project is firstly, clearly we know that work and the role of work is really, really important. It sounds obvious to individuals, to our economy, and indeed to society as a whole. We know that good quality work is good for us. We know that if you talk to sort of senior economists across the world, they're saying, central bankers are starting to get really worried about the fact that older workers have left the workforce during COVID and are potentially not going to come back. So there's a real macroeconomic challenges coming up from there. And for individuals, I say, we know that good quality work is good for us. But actually, we also know we're not innovating enough to tackle some of the challenges that are faced by both actually younger as well as older workers. And with ILC's focus being on the fact that actually there are a lot more of us living a lot longer, actually that has an impact on younger people as well as older people. So we know, for example, we're not investing enough in keeping us all healthier for longer so we can carry on working. And some of our work around health has shown that if we keep people a little bit healthier, we work longer, we volunteer more, we care more, we spend more. There is an absolute economic and social return from keeping ourselves healthy, and actually for us to be able to work longer, we've got to do better at that. We're not investing enough in learning across the life course. Actually there is this perception once you get past 18 or 24, there's just nothing, frankly. There is very little careers advice for midlife. There's little support for people who want to build up their skills throughout their lives. And of course, we're now in a world where people my sort of age, even in their 40s and 50s, actually we started work before the internet. Actually that we have had to change, and we will have to change the way in which and learn throughout our lives, and that change is only going to accelerate, and yet there is very little by the way of supporting learning across the life course. And then we're actually also not doing enough to tackle the issues around discrimination and age discrimination, both at younger ages and at older ages. And I think when I say investing, I don't think I necessarily us be finding ways of governments throwing money at things. Actually, clearly that's part of the issue, but part of the issue is actually ideas. It's about innovations, it's about public policy, better supporting and tackling some of these challenges. So through this project, what we really, really wanted to do was address some of these challenges, and today's really an opportunity for us to celebrate, highlight what some brilliant organisations are doing across the world, and prompt more of a conversation about how we can go from where we are to a place where actually we're a lot better prepared for the fact there are going to be a lot more older workers. So actually, how do we innovate? How do we support employers? How do we support individuals to continue to work and do the sort of jobs they want to do? At that point, I'm going to stop for a moment and pass over to Nic. Nic is an ILC UK partner, director of the National Innovation Centre for Ageing here at Newcastle, and a member of the Work for Tomorrow judging panel. So, Nic, let me pass to you.
Thank you. Thank you, David. Thank you. Thank you. Welcome. Fantastic to have you here. Thanks, David, for the intro. We're the National Innovation Centre for Ageing. We have the word innovation out there, so we literally put a lot of weight on that word, which is critical because we need innovation, and we translate this innovation in the sentence you see out there. We think there is a lack of intelligence that it's need to be brought by us, need to be leveraged from the people in their process of life, that's where this kind of soft spot, it's where we try to build the future solutions, which not necessarily only technological, could be solution in processes, in business model. That's what we aim to do, to give a different perspective and translation to what it's needed to help us as a society to thrive. Now, let me say 3 things about today, which is such an important day, and still have to thank ILC for the amazing job they have done together in this year. The first thing is about the meaning of work. Work means dignity. It's an international event. In the Italian constitution, you know I'm Italian. If you don't know, I think you guess I'm Italian from my accent. The first article of the constitution says that Italy is a republic built on work. It's the 3rd word. Work is about the dignity of women and men. It's about not only obviously working for gaining a salary and sustain our life, but just to express ourselves, what we can bring to society. And you know how much is important the value of work in our life when sometimes we lose our work. Sometimes we lose the work, we are not able anymore to provide our contribution to society. And it's such an important and heavy burden for men and women that can't do that sometimes leads us to critical situations in our life. But it's because we can't provide our self to the society, our contribution to changing the world. That's why it's so important about the dignity. The second is about collaboration. And I think it's something that we can prove here today. Sometimes we have so many good organizations in UK working together about aging and longevity, for example, but that together sometimes needs a little bit more of togetherness. So I think this is one of the examples on how organizations that look forward together about the same principles, share the same ideas, has the same ethical missions, and bring different expertise, can work together to bring a third, bigger, more important, deeper expertise. That's exactly why we're here today. And finally, it's about opportunities. We've done a survey towards our voice member, the community that Lynne will talk about, I think, a little later. And we asked, would you like to work more? Would you like to work in later life? And the answer was always yes. So why don't you do it? Because there are not opportunities for us. Because we think that since we're getting older, we're not able to provide our capital, wisdom, understanding, experience. That's where we can build really a game changer with initiative like this one, like many others, but this is very important because it suggests what could be the opportunities. And the opportunity is an intergenerational opportunity. It's not only an opportunity for older people, it's just an opportunity for putting together expertise, knowledge, different stages of life, because it's from that sparkle that you can really create something that it's not here, it's not yet here. But only if we put them together, if we put it together, we can make it happen. Thank you so much for coming today. Thanks, David, for having built all this thing today.
Thanks, Nic. I'm now going to immediately come up here just to immediately pass on to my much smarter colleague, Lily Parsey. None of us would be here today if it wasn't for Lily. I'd probably just be head in the sand trying to worry about why we haven't had anyone applying, but it's done an amazing job at actually inspiring ideas from across the world. As you will see with the finalists, we've got finalists from as diverse places as Australia and and Brazil, but we also had finalists who joined. We had people who applied from places like the Philippines. You know, we had across the whole world. We had organisations. I think the really exciting thing about this is that actually there clearly is interest in this. So I think that's a positive thing to let me pass on to my colleague Lily to just talk a bit about the programme and what we've done and how we've done it. Lily, do you want me to leave that?
Here we go. Thank you, and for also a very flattering introduction, David. So I'm going to talk a little bit about what we've been doing through this programme for anyone who's more new to it. So why are we here? I think David's touched on this already a little bit. We know we're living longer. As a result, our working lives are going to change quite a lot as well. We're not necessarily just going to have longer working lives, but they're going to change in shape. We're going to be caring at different times in our lives. We might have to learn and relearn a little bit more. And we know that there's a really clear economic incentive to adapt. So not just for governments necessarily, but for employers themselves, for all of us really to think about, you know, how do our working lives change, but also how do people that we're working with, you know, how are they going to get the most out of these longer working lives? And we also know that we're not really there yet. You know, there's really big challenges in terms of health that kicks us out of work when we still want to be doing things, so be that physical or mental health. We know that lots of us are going to be struggling to juggle caring responsibilities with you know, pretty tough workloads, and that our employers aren't really good enough yet at making us sort of work that out. And we know that, you know, while flexible working has been a sort of buzzword around for a long time, the reality is people really haven't been seeing that in their workplaces. And even if COVID has maybe got us a little bit further in that, in terms of, you know, some industries working more from home and so on, we have a long way to go. And I guess finally as well, we know that ageism is a really big barrier to us across the life course. I think David mentioned as well, you know, looking at COVID, we know youngest and oldest workers were hardest hit. We know that particularly older workers are going to find it quite hard to sort of come back into the labour market if they've been unemployed for a long time. So essentially there's a lot for us to do here. So we were really excited to partner up with the Innovation Resource Centre for Human Resources to start this programme. And look across these sort of 4 challenge categories here. So how do we maintain better health at work, from physical and mental health? So that's as much about thinking, you know, how do we make sure we can work and continue to work if we have an existing health need, but also how do we make sure that our work is actually good for us and keeps us healthy sort of throughout our working lives. Secondly, looking at how we build our knowledge, skills and competence and how we continue to do that throughout our working lives. You know, maybe it's not just about having to learn tech skills. Actually, you know, if we're changing careers, what are the things we're really going to need? And what are the things we bring to the table? Thirdly, around addressing discrimination, how do we create really inclusive workplaces that work for everyone, regardless of age, but also regardless of all other sorts of diverse characteristics we might bring to the table? And then finally, how do we adapt the workplace? So how do we really bring in this flexibility that we've been talking about and create jobs that work for people, not just for organisations? So being a think tank, we started off with looking at the issues, of course. So we launched a challenge report where we were looking at the big challenges, but also opportunities in this area in the UK, across the world, and launched an open consultation and heard from lots and lots of people across the world. We held a number of events as well. We consulted with our judging panel, and that's sort of where we got to. And then we launched for submissions. So we got, you know, really, really good response from more than 60 organisations across the world. I think David's mentioned a few of the countries, but it's really been exceptional, you know, from how many different places we've heard. And not just looking necessarily at, you know, white-collar work, looking sort of really across the spectrum, looking from big organisations to small organisations to individuals who've got a really bright idea and want to sort of make a difference. So here you can see a few of the many, many wonderful submissions we received. We also had a great judging panel. I think David's already mentioned the terrible time zones that some people had to join us from to make it, and they've really, really made all the difference here and brought in the expertise from across really different areas, also spanning 3 continents. So a really big thanks to them. And they've whittled down all of our submissions to an initial shortlist of 10 and our 5 finalists who are here with us today. So you'll hear from those later, and we're really excited to be announcing the winners later on. But I guess the main thing I want to say here, as well as, the journey doesn't end here. We really want to make sure that, whether you're joining us in the room or virtually, if one of these ideas resonates with you, if you're already doing something similar, if you're an employer and you think, look, I really want to try this out, or you want to give someone some funding, go reach out to them, grab someone here, grab someone virtually, get in touch with us as well if you want. So here's our program page where you'll also see our blog, video series, sort of more broadly about the issues, and my contact details if you want to get in touch. So that's everything from me. I'll hand back to you, David.
Thank you. Thanks, Lily. Great, thanks, Lily. I'm going to introduce now David Lain, who is the Senior Lecturer in Employment Studies at Newcastle University, as an organisation fundamentally interested in in change, in public policy, in how we change the world to adapt to the fact we have more older workers. There is a huge amount of policy-based evidence making in this space. There is lots of organisations who decide that they want to make some policy and use that, make some evidence and use that to drive the policy they wanted to do anyway, and that's certainly the case in amongst lots of policymakers. So one thing we're really conscious of in the UK is that actually when we're thinking about recommendations, when we're thinking about the sort of things we want to be saying to governments in the UK and across the world across this agenda, we actually need to make sure we have at least a bit of evidence to back that up. So I'm really delighted to have someone who really knows what they're talking about, who can tell us what their evidence is and why we've got it all right in this competition. So, David, can I pass to you? Thanks.
Thank you, David, and thank you for inviting me to this really inspiring competition. I was watching the videos in sort of preparation for this, and I was quite blown away with the ideas and what they were seeking to achieve. And the process of I've been asked to basically talk a little bit about some of the challenges and opportunities for extended working lives, and it's kind of made me think about where I started from, how I got into this field, which was basically I was involved in an evaluation of the government's New Deal 50 plus scheme for long-term unemployed people introduced by the then Labour government. And as a relatively junior researcher, I was kind of tasked with travelling all around the country and interviewing a really diverse range of people. So I spoke to people who are in their 50s, who had been long-term unemployed, who had been worked in accountancy and finance, very wealthy, big houses, big gardens. Also spoke to engineers from the north who had been made unemployed, and also spoke to very disadvantaged people as well, who had periods of unemployment throughout their lives, and so unemployment wasn't necessarily very unusual for them. But despite the fact that they were, a very diverse group, they all had one thing in common, which was basically the simple fact that they found it very hard to get back into work once they had been made redundant. This was in the late 1990s, early 2000s, and it was a real eye opener for me. Now, obviously, that was 20 years ago I did this, and so some things have changed. Legislatively, the field looks very different. We now have age discrimination legislation that didn't exist then. We got rid of mandatory retirement in 2011. But some of the things are still unfortunately true. So the fact that older people still find it harder to get work if they become unemployed is still the case, and it's not just this country, it's across the world. So I just wanted to say a little bit about some of the kind of opportunities for, some of the challenges and potential opportunities for what can be done. So I haven't got the slide in front of me. So what did I say? What did I think? So what's changed? What sort of things are important? I think the first thing to say is that it's about support for older people and organisations. So you can't think about these things as if there is, you can have support for older people, or you can have support for organisations, HR staff, line managers, this kind of thing. In research we've done in the Uncertain Futures project, we've gone into organisations, and you may say to an HR manager, what are your policies? And they will tell you some quite exciting things. And then you go and talk to an employee and they've never heard of them, or they say that their line manager isn't interested, and basically therefore they haven't got access to it. So we can't think about these things as being one or the other. We have to think about these things together, and we have to think about trying to kind of balance both sides of the coin. So what are some of the areas where perhaps we could have some innovations? So the first thing is in relation to managing health and well-being at work, which is an important issue. Now, it's really important, and I always say this to students when I usually give them a 2-hour lecture, so you're blessed, you've got a few minutes from me. But I always say to students, I try and get them beyond the idea of the stereotypes about work absence and older people and this kind of thing, because that's sometimes what they come forward with. But of course there are things that health issues that disproportionately affect older people, and there are things that organisations can do to support people of all ages who have health issues. We've done research on this Supporting Health Ageing at Work project, where we've gone into organisations, and I've been involved with the self-employed, and we've talked to people about some of their health issues, and obviously menopause was one of the issues. And a month or two ago, I was talking to someone who had left the workplace because their menopause symptoms weren't dealt with in a very sensitive, not in a very sensitive way is polite, to be honest. It was horrific what she went through. But also there's ignorance around these things and that kind of thing. So as people work longer, people are going to have to work longer, and then we have to think more cleverly about things that we can do to support older people's health and well-being. And sometimes they can be quite simple things that are done at the right times, information and support that can be really important. Secondly, we need more support with managing extended careers and what the sociologist Chris Phillipson called blurred work endings. So with the abolition of mandatory retirement ages in 2011, that's kind of changed the nature of the relationship of the kind of later careers to a significant degree. And organisations, from our experience of doing interviews and other people's research, organisations often don't know how to manage this. Line managers don't know how to manage this. They're scared about discussing things about plans for older workers. They're scared about being discriminatory and this sort of thing. And sometimes it's about line managers, for example, having the right information at the right time in the right format that's available for them. And often they don't have that, and they don't always understand the law. And there needs to be ways in which this kind of middle ground can be supported, but also older people as well, so they know what their rights are and how they can manage the situation as well. Thirdly, supporting attitudinal shifts. So, when I started 20 years ago on this kind of area, you'd go and talk to managers and they would be quite blatant about what they thought, right? Now, they don't say things that they kind of would have done 20 years ago. They're more subtle in what they say, but their treatment is often kind of demonstrates that they do deny opportunities to older people in the workplace, even if they don't say that they do. And so it's about changing attitudes. It's about changing attitudes generally. But it's not just about changing attitudes it's about changing attitudes in the workplace and the work environment in general. We see colleagues of mine have worked on internalised ageism, where people take on some of the negative feelings about age when they get older. Maybe they had stereotypical attitudes when they were younger, they reach older age and they think that they're constrained sometimes in ways that they're not particularly. So we need to think about how we can try and shift attitudes as well. So all the things I'm saying are huge. Fourthly, we need help with supporting people through job transitions and changes. So research we've done that looks at people working past 65, most of these people have made some kind of significant change in their life in order to do that. They may have reduced their working hours or done something in order to continue working longer. And as people work longer, then they may have to go through different types of transitions. They may have to reduce their working hours, or they might want to reduce their working hours. Or they might potentially want to go into self-employment. During the COVID pandemic, the biggest group of older people that left were professionals, and not all of those people necessarily want to finish work altogether. They may be fed up and had the financial means to leave, but there's a potential sort of reservoir of people who might potentially be drawn into self-employment if they're provided with the support and the guidance to do that, because it's not easy. In the US, more people say they're going to do self-employment at older age than actually do. It's not as easy as people think. We need more support, and also just to say, part of that support is about providing advice and mentoring to older people, career guidance, this kind of thing. So it's about providing people with, you know, what their options are, guidance, career guidance, support, mentoring, these sorts of things. But it's not just that, because that just shifts all the responsibility onto older people. It's also about trying to have, you know, inclusive recruitment, right? Because, you know, it's not just about attitudes, but sometimes, you know, an older person might be kind of sort of sidelined from a particular job because of the way in which the recruitment process is set up. So if you were educated in an earlier age, you've got different qualifications, you might have less qualifications. You may have gone into a job with very few qualifications and you've built a very successful career, have a huge amount of experience. But if as recruiters you're just looking at paper qualifications the whole time, not taking that into account, then you're never going to be inclusive. So we need support with inclusive with recruitment as well. We all need support with adapting to changing technologies and to work locations. Obviously, there's a debate about whether or not people are going to be working from home more in the future. But of course, automation means some jobs will disappear or become very redundant. Some areas will be growth areas. And so, as David was saying, we need lifelong learning. We need support for people to kind of adapt to those kind of changes. And finally, as Lily said, we need kind of more support with providing combining work with other activities such as caring as well. Because older age or 50 plus period is a period when you start getting grandchildren. We've done research on that. People want to be involved in their grandchildren's lives. But it also means that their parents may obviously get older and have kind of health crises, which means they might need flexibility at work for a relatively short period to continue working. So, as a sociologist, I've just created a huge amount of issues for other people to kind of solve. So it's really nice to be here and actually and hear and watching your videos. I was really inspired by what I saw. And thank you, David and Lily, for inviting me today.
Thanks, David. I'm going to now invite our 5 finalists to come and talk for about 5 minutes each on do their final pitch, as it were. One of the things sort of worth reflecting, because so we were, when Lily started at ILC, we were involved in the Innovation for Ageing Awards. This is our second sort of competition, and before that I was involved in a couple of sort of awards on, apps to support older people. And one of the things that's really striking about, I think, what's changed over these sort of 5 or 6 years is that particularly the first couple of competitions were 70 or 80 people in their 20s who wanted to create an app to make sure we were safe. And I think one of the things that's really, really interesting that's changed, and actually I should be really clear, I think it's brilliant that we've got people in their 20s and 30s who are interested in how you create solutions for the fact that more and more of us are living longer. But actually one of the brilliant things about this competition, which is much more than innovation competitions, for those who've been to, all full of people in their 20-year-olds flashing their latest app. What you've got here in the finalists, and indeed the broader list, is a massive diversity of, this isn't 20-year-olds from Silicon Valley. We've got people got different sorts of experience. One of our long list was a plumber who created an app because in the back of his van he just thought, isn't this a brilliant idea? We really I need an app to do this. And as you'll see from some of the shortlists, we've got some really, really great and interesting people, and I think that's progress. I think actually I absolutely want the 20-year-olds to be thinking about the problems, but actually I also want the 30-year-olds, 40-year-olds, 50-year-olds, and 80-year-olds and 90-year-olds. Frankly, as I have a parliamentarian as a boss who's in her 80s, frankly, the energy of my boss will never go away, and you need to inspire that energy as well as the energy of the 20-year-old. So I'm going to stop rambling and pass on to our first shortlist, who is Rachel Palmer from Ageing Workforce Ready. So Rachel is here and is joining us from Australia even.
Could we just blank the screen? That's not my slide. Let me just go back to the finalist. Yeah, beautiful. Thank you. Yeah, it's great to be here from Australia, as you can probably tell from my accent. And David, thanks for all of those challenges. As a psychologist, hopefully I've come up with a couple of solutions. So in the initial pitch, I talked about the initiatives that we created through the Ageing Workforce Ready project, and how we tried to kind of create, those easy 1, 2, 3 steps around examine, educate, and equip. And particularly with the Ageing Workforce Ready project, we're looking at protecting and promoting mental health and wellbeing of older workers in public transport. Today, I want to tell you about something different and about the design of the project and our implementation and the impact that we've had in the pilot organisations. I think it's important to give you a bit of this background, as it does really speak to sort of some of the things that David put up on that list of challenges. We were looking at systemic change in organisations. So how do you equip both managers and employees to support their mental health and the mental health of older workers? We're funded by WorkSafe Victoria's WorkWell Mental Health Improvement Fund, which I think is innovative in itself. From what I can gather, it's kind of the equivalent of the Health and Safety Executive here in the UK. And they funded 31 projects through that WorkWell funding, with a vision, and I think quite an important vision, of reducing mental injury and creating safe and mentally healthy workplaces. So I guess we took a kind of social research approach, as I would, being a psychologist. So we started with creating an evidence baseline, and we did that through a literature review and through running roundtables with academics as well as with people from the industry. We then did a baseline assessment with the pilot participants and explored, with older workers, talking to older workers, which doesn't happen enough, what would help. From that information, we designed and implemented a range of different activities, and most recently, we've evaluated the impact. So one of the headline feedback from the evaluation was that the design of our program is appropriate for this industry, which was big relief. I want to share a little bit more of the feedback from the evaluation and marry it up against the 4 challenge areas that Lily showed us just before. So the first one of those, maintaining good health, and for us that was particularly good mental health at work. 75% of participating organisations agreed that the initiatives helped to support mental health and wellbeing of older workers. And I suspect that the 25% who didn't endorse that, it wasn't so much that the initiatives weren't right. They already said that the design was good, but with COVID, just getting this up the priority list, it was challenging. We were dealing with, having to, make people redundant because they didn't get vaccinated. And in Australia, we had mandatory vaccinations. So there was all sorts of, big pressure things going on at the time. Number 2, building knowledge, skills and competence. So we did that in a number of different ways, educating about ageism and educating employees, but in particular manager training. And we did a pre-post feedback with our managers and found that they said that a 27% increase in their confidence and their knowledge in the areas that we'd done the training. Number 3, addressing discrimination and supporting diversity. So I told you in the other pitch about how there was an organisation that wanted to clone Rob, a new older worker. Well, they hired another older employee, someone who was unretiring. And again, this person needed a little more technical training, but very pleased with their fit in the organisation. Number 4, adapting the workplace. So particularly with flexibility, one of the participating companies put up a number of posters and some flyers, telling people about this initiative. And there was a handful of people that went to talk to the manager who had been trained. And they had constructive conversation and put in place flexible work. And I think for some of them particularly, it was that ramp down to retirement that we know is really important for people's mental health, both at work and then into retirement as well. So our industry partners agreed that this program should continue beyond the depots where it's been piloted, which is good because that's what we want to do too. So our next steps are to celebrate. So we want to put the outcomes from the evaluation out there, you know, publish conferences, that sort of thing, and share what we've learnt. We want to translate this for other industries, so take it from public transport into many other industries, which is absolutely possible, and also to collaborate. So, you know, and this competition is part of that. We've met some, you know, like-minded, passionate people that we want to continue working with. So thank you for the opportunity, thank you for this, and it's great to be with you.
Thank you. Let me now pass on to Lucy Standing from Brave Start, who's travelled a little less far, but actually has still had to make it up the east coast of the UK on the train. So, yeah, Lucy. Yeah.
Thank you all very much. Just make sure. Yes, it's all working. Oh, yes. Can you all hear me okay? All right. Right, so I'm Lucy Standing. I'm a chartered psychologist and I represent a small portion of the entire volunteer team. I want to call out Harris Karim, who's the tech lead, and he's also a specialist in machine learning, data-driven product design, and artificial intelligence. We then have 7 core team members. I'm not going to go through all of them, but we are all passionately aligned with supporting the vision of helping older people live making their later working years their best working years. I won't go into too much detail onto the problem. We all know that, it's already been spoken about, it's already been addressed. But from our perspective, what's certainly clear is that society isn't prepared for the ageing workforce. We know people at this stage in their life feel lost. We know that they need support from organisations, which they are very unlikely to get. Career development post-50 is not high up on the HR list of priorities. And finally, career coaching is expensive. It lacks research rigour and it doesn't have practical application. And we don't think this, we know it. We have an ongoing survey. We're now at over 6,000 people who have contributed. We know that there are 3 big things that are driving what they want out of the next stage of their lives. First and foremost, they want a job that gives them a sense of purpose. Dignity is a very, very important point and theme here. They need flexibility and they want to learn new things. What a gift this demographic is to our country and indeed to the world. But what is actually stopping them? So, by far and away, and really significantly, it is this piece about not knowing what to do next. This is why they feel lost. That, with a healthy dose of age discrimination being chucked in there, certainly makes life a little bit challenging for them. So we know that this is a really valuable demographic to us, and it is not understood by the market. We know how to unlock that value, and I'm going to explain a little bit as to how we do that. So first and foremost, we use data and technology to build the social and human connection that help people figure out their next steps. Everyone is unique. I really wish I could tell you that this is a one-size-fits-all solution, but it's not. So specifically, how do we get to developing a more holistic solution that provides opportunities to meet a variety of needs? Well, first and foremost, we have a membership platform, allowing people to connect along aligned interests. We also provide 4 or 5 different opportunities each month through events that we know, through feedback, are aligned with what people at this stage in their life want to learn more about. We also have a unique career development program, call it psychological stages they need to go through to get from confusion to clarity. It takes 3 to 4 months, but what's unique is that we drive that clarity through a cohort process. Finally, we also have opportunities for people to connect with experts and job shadow them. It is amazing how many people think they have an idea of their dream job until they go and shadow it for a day. Then maybe it's not so much their dream. Having this community around us really supports us to iterate, design, test, and develop as we go. And it is working. We have over 2,000 members on our platform. We've supported more than 100 people through our programmes. We have raised over £7,000 for small businesses and charities so far. And finally, Baroness Ros Altman also led a debate at the House of Lords, citing Brave Starts and some of our ideas. But don't just hear from me. We talked about community, so hear from them.
Just talking to people, getting to understand other people's points of view, situations.
The best bit for me is meeting other people in the same situation. That's always really, really helpful.
You're all in the same boat. You could learn a lot from it.
That chance to see things differently from everybody else who works for your company. And
it's quite liberating to know you're not on your own.
When you need to speak to the group next week, you need to have something to say, and so that's been quite motivating. And one or two of us have kept in touch.
The group has been so helpful in coming up with ideas and being supportive. Just the feedback was so positive and good. It really helped.
The Brave Starts process has been very, very good in actually making me think analytically about where do I want to be.
I have got my direction now, which is a really great place to be.
And what I would say is that we are really only just starting. Going forward, we would like to scale what we're doing. We'd like to accelerate our content and put more of it online so that more of our users can access our market-leading content. We will continue to share our data and our insight with other organisations so that decisions can be based on evidence and not opinion. And finally, and what we will never lose sight of, is the fact that technology is an enabler for social and human connection. And that is what really enables and drives the learning. We have achieved everything so far based without any funding or any investment of any kind. We are powered purely through volunteer resource. Imagine what winning an award like this could mean for an organisation like us. Thank you.
Thanks so much, Lucy. And as those of you who've sort of worked in and around tech, so we've got, and of course tech and innovation will know that the thing that where you really start getting scared is the minute that anyone wants to talk about technology, you want to bring technology in because it never really works in the way you'd really like to. But I'm really confident that we are now going to be able to bring some people in virtually, and it's all going to go really, really smoothly, and nothing's going to go wrong. And this is a beautiful, but for those of you who aren't here around, it's a beautiful, beautiful centre, lecture theatre. So let's see if we can manage it. Our next speaker is joining us remotely from Brazil, I think from Labora Tech. So let's see if we can make that work. Yeah. Great, please. Hi.
So you can follow better myself. Okay, sorry for my accent, Brazilian accent. I'll do my best here. I'm a social entrepreneur. I've been working with B Corps and longevity for the last 10 years at least. And after working as a movement and as an NGO for trying to get people involved in a longevity subject, we decided that we needed to focus on what the market needs and then have a match in between what the market needs and what senior people need. And that's when we started with Labora 3 years ago. So Labora is a HR tech. So it's how we use tech to enable people to join market. How do we do that? First, we focus on what the market, the trends of markets. So the trend, the way that we work is changing a lot. Technology is changing a lot. Companies are changing a lot. So we need to put this element together with the demographic that is changing a lot. So that's what we propose. Although market is changing a lot, companies still are looking to only youth to hire in volume to start a career. So that's the change that we want to. We need to disrupt HR. So if they still only look at the youth, they are in a war of talent. And the market is very competitive. New skills needed very fast because technology is changing really fast, faster than ever. And companies are more and more need some diversity, but they haven't changed their process, so it doesn't work. So that's what we propose. We propose a change on how companies, who companies engage and how they engage. So our product that we developed is called the Talent as a Service. So is how do we put seniors, a pool of talents on so companies can work with them, but in a different way, in a way that they choose the time and the day they want to work, and more than that, they get skilled to make this work. So that's what we present. How do we do that? We invite people to a community, online community, a social community, so they get engaged, they get a sense of belonging. After we provide a lot of courses for free with partners, and by doing these courses, we make the match. And then we start to really allocate seniors at companies and provide results that companies never had before. How do we, just looking at a zoom at how we make the reskilling? We've built a online platform so people have this sense of belonging, get what their best, put into the market, and we partnered with some large companies. The two international ones are Oracle and Microsoft, that provide their course for us for free. And throughout this process, we have in the last year and a half, 22,000 seniors have joined the community, online community, that they are going through all different courses. And throughout that, our technology get to know what are their skills, soft skills and hard skills. And by doing that, we can really make the match to new works and allocate them in new workforces. When they start to work in these new workforces, they use our app. Our app is to follow what they do, and by following, we can know exactly their performance and prove to the market that they have higher performance for as we present. And we provide some reports to the companies that join us. 3 years ago, this was very something incredible, and now it's reality. We've been working with the Brazilian largest bank, including seniors in branches, Sanofi, including some seniors in their staff. So we started very slow in 2019-20, developing technology, and last year we started to get a lot of companies joining because we have the results that they need with a new demographic that they didn't have. More than that, we have seniors that are having new possibilities of work again in a different way, the day and the hour that they want. And so I brought here some seniors, what they are telling us, how satisfied they are. Well, I'll just get some of them. But more than just getting them to work, getting training, what we follow is how work can change their health. So we use the WHO, the World Health Organization Quality of Life Protocol, to follow each 3 months how this work can get their health better. And we've been a lot of good results with that. And more than that, we've been gaining large companies, CEO level, to become like a league of transformation, and they're getting together with us, making this change together. So by doing that, we've been growing in Brazil. We see that we can go much further. We'd love to go to UK, to Europe, to United States to make this transformation, the transformation of HR, including different ages in a more technological way of working. So that's what we really are aiming to grow from 22,000 people to 100,000 people by the end of this year. And that's our aim. Thank you.
Great, thank you very much. Great to have you here joining us from Brazil. And for one of our colleagues who heads up ILC Brazil actually is a guy called Dr. Alex Kalash, who some of you may know. He used to head up the work over at the World Health Organization, and I was with him last week, and he said when he started off as life in Brazil was sort of, I think it was late 40s, and Alex himself is now in his late 70s. So actually you've seen astonishing growth in life expectancy in places like Brazil. And of course it is a huge place, So we're going for a huge place, back to another sort of slightly smaller place, not to be offensive towards our Australian friends, but we're going to head back to Australia, and we have, I think, David Tarr from Maturis, who is going to be joining us remotely and slickly, I'm sure. Oh, no, David Tarr, I think we've got Maturis first, have we?
Yeah. Screen.
Is David joining us from?
Yeah, I'm here.
Oh,
I'm just waiting. I can't see
great.
my slides.
Great. We can see you. We can see your slides now, but we can't see you at the moment. But do kick off,
Okay.
David. Yeah.
Yeah, let's get going.
Yeah.
Fantastic. Look, it's fantastic to be with you this afternoon for the awards. I'd like to firstly, just say how excited we are about initially being shortlisted. But I'd also just like to thank the International Longevity Centre for creating the competition and shining a very bright light on the ever-expanding challenges, but also the opportunities of our mature age workforce. And I'd also like to thank the ILC team for their efforts, and of course the International Panel of Judges for their contribution. During this slide presentation, I'll be asking Richard to go to next slide. There was a few technical glitches. It is 3 a.m. here in Sydney in Australia. So I'm just going to blame the technology for now. So if we could just go over to the next slide, please. Today, we aim to demonstrate that by removing employment ageism from the recruitment equation, Maturis enables organisations to harness the untapped value of the global mature age workforce. Next slide, please. So what problem are we solving? The great global silence of employment ageism. And unfortunately, the problem it creates is hidden in plain sight around the world. Now, employment ageism is the least understood of all of the isms, both by employers and mature age people themselves. So its damage and cost is usually overlooked. Next slide. We need innovation to create equal employment opportunities for mature age workers. And importantly, to help organisations objectively source, match and hire mature age talent. But importantly as well, we need to reverse the cost of employment ageism and turn it into a global economic advantage. Next slide. We also need innovation to circumvent global talent shortages fueled by outdated and biased hiring practices. The antiquated system of resume and job board plays no small part in the current employment crisis, as millions of talented, hardworking, mature-age people are left underutilised, underengaged, and undercompensated. Next slide, please. Originality is rare and interesting, and it's what makes things matter. But importantly, true originality solves important problems through new eyes and new ways. The new eyes that inspired Maturis were born from real-life experience of employment ageism and discrimination, mine personally. I chose to turn a disappointment into a new way to transform and democratise recruitment and create an opportunity to redefine the true employment value of mature age workers. Next slide. To make it matter, we designed a talent matching methodology to remove the collective bias and guesswork from a truly subjective recruitment processes. And to make it rare, we measure the depth and breadth of mature age workers' accumulated capabilities throughout their entire working career. And on average, a mature age person by the time they've turned 50 has had 11 jobs. Next slide, please. To make it compelling, we map each person's job DNA. Maturis technology reinvents hiring by introducing structured employment biodata models, complex proficiency weightings, and algorithms to automate objective talent acquisition and hiring processes. Next slide, please. We know that employment ageism shortens lives. It has a negative impact on physical health, mental health, and economic and social well-being. Decades of accumulated research evidence tells us that critical human needs are met through meaningful employment. And the World Health Organization ageism report references alone 663 reports, so there is no shortage of evidence. Next slide, please. We know that meaningful employment expands lives. And the study done by United Nations report, and also a study that was done by Deloitte, underestimate the economic loss of ageism because they use the wrong starting age. Ageism starts at the age of 40 for men and for women in their late 30s. If we shrink the ageism pandemic, and it is a pandemic, in Australia, the country could be back in budget surplus in 4 to 5 years, not the forecast 10 years. Just imagine the impact Maturis could have in the UK and the US and around the world. Next slide, please. We need to do more, much, much more. So we created a better and fairer way to match and hire mature age talent. Next slide, please. Welcome to the Maturis Deep Job Platform. There are a few things we've learned building a deep job platform, and sometimes the hard way, about building our niche marketplace and offering. But we found out very quickly that specificity is critical. Next slide, please. Focusing on our niche, which is of course mature age, but also mature age in Australia by ABS definition is 45 plus, and a select number of industry verticals has enabled us to design a tailored and evolving product suite and user experience. The Maturis approach brings together both sides of the marketplace to enable what many deemed impossible, possible. Next slide, please. We know with every software innovation vying to be the next best thing, we need to keep the door open for expansive upward growth while still operating successfully at a lower scale factor. But as we scale, not only will the Maturis platform better serve mature age workers and organisations globally, we will be a far superior business than the traditional and mainstream job marketplaces. Next slide, please. We are pursuing the things that we can do best with a team of like-minded people who share our vision for employment for all ages. We're actively cultivating global networks to accelerate the opportunity for companies to hire millions of mature age people around the world. We've been working with the UK Department of Industry and Trade, the Phoenix Group, and in the US, the Age Friendly Foundation. In the wake of COVID-19, we believe Maturis will play a critical role in getting mature age people back to work in the best jobs possible. Next slide, please. 67% of people aged 66 plus say they're not going to retire, assuming they can get a job, that is. Now is the time to rise to the occasion. In closing, the world belongs to those who are ready to walk the talk and take the next step in their journey. We certainly are. Thank you for the opportunity to share the Maturis story with you. Thank you.
Great. Thank you very much for joining us again at 3 o'clock in the morning. I am very sorry. I am. Actually, you know, working for an international organisation, it always seems really, really glamorous until someone says, no, actually that means that you've got calls at 6 o'clock in the morning or 3 o'clock in the morning or 9 o'clock at night, and then it doesn't seem as glamorous as I thought. Let me pass on to our final pitch, which is Mark Elliott from Startup School. Yes, Mark. Thanks.
Wow, really serious stuff this, isn't it? Hi, my name's Mark Elliott and I'm really nervous. I'm co-founder of Startup School for Seniors with the powerhouse that is Suzanne Noble. I don't know about you, but I think everybody around the world has been hit by the pandemic really hard. But I know that you, as individuals, know that it's hit people over 50 in the world of work in a particular way. Many people have already transitioned into the work of self-employment, either through choice, hurrah, or maybe through necessity, because they've been made redundant under long furlough or laying idle, or perhaps because they can't find employment. Remembering that it takes people over 50 over twice as long to find a job, even if there is one, okay? So that's where Startup School for Seniors comes in. We help people create their own work for tomorrow. Since 2017, we've been delivering courses, first in community centres and libraries, and then iterating what we do based on the feedback from our participants. That old pandemic thing really accelerated the necessity and the need for our provision. So we've taken what we do onto a state-of-the-art digital platform for delivery. And what else have we done? forgot. We're getting ready to deliver our 7th cohort since October 2020. Now this one is funded by local authorities, by trusts, and by some European funding. Hi Brazil, hi Australia. No, we don't have it either. So we're getting ready for our 7th cohort right at the moment. And we're going to be delivering in London, in Bedfordshire, in Dorset, around the country, and we're going to be doing the West Midlands come September. So, designed from the ground up, we have accessibility at our core. All of our video material is captioned and transcribed so that people who are older, who have hearing disabilities like myself, other visual impairments, other neurodiversity, can come along and take part in all of our material and learn what they need to do. What else have we got? Well, on the platform, we have an area for people to track their own progress, not only of their business, but also of their morale. We have worksheets, hurrah, for them to work on. We have a weekly exploration and collaboration call for people to share their ideas and test them out in a really welcoming and comfortable environment. And for that, we also have a marketplace where people actually can offer what they do to people and people can pay them money without telling their friend that they're now something else. And our Moving Forward group is an ongoing monthly platform for people to have continued support for their startup and getting going. Is there anything else that we do? Well, we have over 25 hours of pre-recorded material with a variety of business owners, with experts, and with our alumni showcasing what they do. Why is that good? Well, it's good because our course helps people take their first steps to starting their own business. I forgot, you don't have to believe me. Here's another wonderful video. It's lovely. These people are lovely. Is this going to play? I have to click on it.
Hello.
Hi. Hi.
Okay.
So I'm Helen and I'm the founder of Made of Roxy.
I'm the founder of More Options.
The business is Global Village Radio.
And I have founded the social enterprise called Generate.
It's a small candle business where I hand pour candles in my kitchen.
Health Defence is a program to get you fit.
I help people to make life easier through writing.
When you hit a certain age, sometimes your confidence can be knocked.
Losing my job at my age and that point of life was very, very devastating for me.
There was no direction. There wasn't really a clue of, okay, how do I get to the next stage?
So when Startup School came along, it just sounded like just what I needed.
I think before Startup School, I was plodding along and I might make and sell a candle here or there. But I think with the course, it really made you sort of go up a gear.
Well, initially it was a little bit kind of scary because I'm thinking, well, I'm going back to school. But my experience was so positive.
You feel held, you feel included. And also because the people delivering, they've been through that. They're talking from personal experience.
You know, you could literally take your full list of questions and have them all answered. You know, it covers everything.
I was able to finally begin to put actions in place to get to where I need to be.
There's hope there. There's hope, you know, you can do something. I know you can do something and here's the way to do it.
And just having that encouragement and knowing that there are other people doing the same thing.
I've been inspired, I've grown in confidence.
This course is absolutely integral to people's economic mobility.
with this course, people are able to transform their lives.
The progress that I've seen, I haven't seen that in 8 years, you know. I hadn't seen that in 8 years, and that's just the truth.
We'll go on to another video. So thank you for your consideration, and if anybody wants to commission 1 or 2 places for any over 50s, anybody with a commissioning budget, then, oh, hello, then speak to me, or if anybody wants to join us for our next course, which starts on the 6th of May, come on down. Okay, thank you.
Great. I'm slightly changed the order, as I'm really pleased to say we've got Onwurah, the local MP here. One of the challenges with doing events outside London is, of course, that all of the MPs are forced to go down to London. So, you know, we can't have them with us, but really delighted that we have the Minister for Newcastle Central, the MP for Newcastle Central and the Shadow Minister for Science and Research Innovation. We, behind me, perhaps, in a moment, we had... we were talking earlier about Brazil and how sort of it's aged over such a lot over the last sort of 50, 60 years. And Che has sort of family relationships with Nigeria. And one of the things that's really interesting about Nigeria, and this is a global competition, is Nigeria is an astonishingly young place. It's it's the most populous place in Africa. It's really, really young. But actually, the messages that are coming out of this program around the need to innovate for an aging workforce, because actually it's going to get older. Nigeria has the opportunity to be this which is probably a hint to get off the stage. Let me pass over to Che. Oh, we don't have her. Okay, well, let's not do that at the moment. Let's go back to our slides.
She'll be away for a few minutes.
Okay. Okay, shall I move on to Jodi and come back? Okay, so let me go back to Jodi, who I think is joining us from America first, and then we'll come back to Che. Jodi is the Executive Director of the Innovation Resource Centre for HR, and has been really, frankly, for a small organisation based in the UK, and okay, we have a really nice network, it's great when you get the trust of big American trusts to come and say, look, we're willing to support your work, and it's been brilliant working with Jodi. Look, we've got a chair, we've got an empty chair. Do we actually have Jodi there? It's not 3 o'clock in the morning for Jodi. I can see Jodi. There we are, Jodi, let me stop nattering and let me pass over to you to talk about why you sort of supported this and why you've been interested in it and what next.
Thank you, David. Can you hear me?
Yeah, great.
Oh, great, wonderful, hello. Good afternoon, Newcastle. And for those of you like me who can't be in the room where it's happening, good morning, good afternoon, and good evening. I'm here representing IRC for HR, the funder of the Work for Tomorrow program, both in my role of executive director and also as one of the competition judges. First, I appreciate the opportunity to speak to you, and I'd like to start by saying thank you to our generous host, Nic Palmarini, and National Innovation Center for Aging. Nic is a brilliant leader in innovation and aging, and just a lovely human being. I'm grateful to call him a colleague and friend. I would also like to give a warm congratulations to our contest finalists, and a thank you to all the participating innovators for your inspiring submissions, and to our panel of judges for your time, often at, as David mentioned, pretty tough times a day, and for your thorough, thoughtful reviews. We are all grateful. As David mentioned, I was asked to share with you why IRC for HR supported this program, some reflections on the finalists, and what we would like to see happen next. Our mission since 1926 has been to advance the knowledge and practice of human relations in the workplace. In brief practical terms, we fund research and multi-stakeholder dialogues to help organizations and workers succeed together. So while our work isn't focused specifically on issues of aging, making sure that every member of the workforce is able to thrive at every age and stage of life is absolutely aligned with our purpose. And that's one reason we supported the Work for Tomorrow program. Another reason is that we are a very small foundation and our grants tend to be rather modest. We try to amplify our impact by finding opportunities to not just fund original research, but to raise the profile and amplify the voices of researchers and innovators who are already out there doing great work, but not yet well known or not in a position to scale. What better way to do this than to sponsor a global innovation competition? Lastly, we believe that complex challenges require holistic system solutions, and that it takes a community to support and enable sustainable change. Having just listened to the pitches of our 5 finalists, I'm sure you can understand why we are so excited about the creative problem solvers who emerged from the shortlist and made it to the final 5. Their solutions recognize the multiple stakeholders in the ecosystem of work and the importance of community in increasing the confidence of older workers, changing the narrative around dated, false stereotypes of aging, and improving the quality of management practices when it comes to job design, hiring, reskilling, and reimagining career paths. What would we like to see happen next? Well, we would like to start by celebrating our finalists. And I'm sincerely sorry I can't be there to raise a glass with you. We would like to see this competition as a catalyst for change. And we will be exploring opportunities to do that in the coming weeks as we reflect on what we learned from the Work for Tomorrow program. They say if you want to go fast, go alone. But if you want to go far, go together. I invite everyone in this room, physically and virtually, along with others in this ecosystem, to become part of a multi-stakeholder community that continues to innovate and to shine a light on what we are learning about how to make work for everyone. Let me wrap up with a sincere thanks to David Sinclair and the ILC UK, who imagined this program and then brought it to life, with a special shout out to Lily Parsey, who took the lead. It has been a pleasure to collaborate with you, and we look forward to seeing how this work continues to enhance the opportunities and eliminate the challenges for older workers. Thank you.
Great, thanks, Jodi. Do we have Jo?
And she's not at her desk, David.
Okay. Well, let's we'll move on then to. Do we have George? George. Okay. We'll have George. Let's pass on to George. I was going to introduce George. Say, last month or so, I was with George talking about the economic opportunities of ageing in Portugal, and then I looked down and realised that it wasn't last month; it was last week. So it's obviously quite a week, but actually one of the reasons we were doing that is because actually there's a very strong interest globally from the UK and from others in how we make the most of the economic opportunities of ageing. And George has George's job. I'm misrepresenting it, I'm sure, but one of George's responsibilities is to help us deliver the 5 extra years of healthy ageing. So an easy one there for you, George. Let me pass on to the representative of the judges to say a few words. Thanks.
David, thank you very much. And it was a real pleasure actually being part of the judging panel. I should say I'd really wanted to be with you in person, but a sign of the times I've been forced to self-isolate. And before you get worried, David, it's not me that has the COVID. The competition, when it launched last year, I said this was a Rip Van Winkle moment, a time to wake up and do something for a growing cohort of people entering later life who know that they have so much more to give, and a cohort that faces the prospect of their potential being misunderstood and talents wasted, just at a time when we're taking on increasing caring responsibilities, and the world of work was being turned on its head by the pandemic. So the entrance to the competition certainly rose to that challenge, meaning there were no easy choices for us to make as judges. We were actually a diverse group, bringing a broad range of perspectives. And that made for really lively discussions when it came to assessments. Personally, I learned a lot through the process and thank my colleagues for offering their wisdom. I would like to add a personal thank you to all the innovators who did submit their ideas. And what an amazing group of finalists we've just heard from. That just gives you a sense of what we were looking at as judges. We saw entrants that addressed all 4 themes for this competition, and many of those sort of innovations addressing more than one at the same time. So we saw proposals for adapting the workplace, everything from flexible working to rethinking the office, through to helping those with caring responsibilities, proposals for maintaining good health with a spread of ideas addressing both physical and mental well-being, and also picking up the discussion we had at the launch event, where activity has largely been designed out of the way many of us work. So how do we get it back? We also saw a lot of innovations for addressing discrimination and supporting diversity, covering employment practices, you've heard some of that earlier, raising general awareness of the issues of ageism, something around cultural fit, and also helping line managers understand the value and the needs of older workers. And then building knowledge, skills, and competence. And again, we've heard some of the finalists in this category, which by my reckoning saw twice as many proposals as each of the others. There were tools to help specific groups like self-employed tradesfolk, support for businesses, and a lot around helping people navigate career transitions and plan for later life. I suppose what came through for me as a judge is the depth of personal experience that was driving those ideas, whether that be helping people in some of the more disadvantaged communities set up micro enterprises, or innovations that set out to challenge pervasive ageist attitudes. Much of what we saw had applicability right across the generations too. What I also loved was the range of ideas coming forward from around the world, and we've already heard a little bit about that. This is a truly global challenge, and we have a lot to learn from each other. Some of the innovations really have the potential to go on to be world leaders in their own right. Others could seed social movements that enable their impact to scale and spread. So let me just conclude, say once again, thank you to the ILC and the Innovation Centre, a resource centre for HR, for setting up this competition and inspiring some of the most exciting innovations for responding to an ageing workforce. Looking forward, the overall winners will be announced shortly. It's clear to me that every entry we assessed has real potential, and I'd encourage all the innovators to continue to pursue their dreams of making the world of work better for tomorrow. Thank you.
Great, thank you, George. So I think what we're going to do now is pass over to Lynne to give out our first prize. Lynne Corner, who's worked with ILC for a long time, Director of the Voice Network here at Newcastle, is going to talk a bit about the role of voice, the importance of communities, and announce the winner of the Work for Tomorrow Community Award. Lynne.
Hello everybody, it's a pleasure to be here. This has just been a fantastic afternoon. I have loved listening to all of the different stories and hearing from all the different innovators. It is truly remarkable, you know, that we've got so much imagination, so much creativity, and as Nic said at the start, just so much innovation, which is really, really helping to bring some really practical solutions to kind of this issue of how we can harness the incredible insight and talent of older people. You know, we're part of now of longevity societies. Andrew Scott talks many times about the fact we're living the 100-year life. So of course we've got to change everything that we know about longevity and make sure that we've got people, as we've seen today, who have access to education, to skills, that we can change that right across the life course. And we started out in voice About 12 years ago, I've got some founding members here with me today, and VOICE stands for Valuing Our Intellectual Capital and Experience, which is a bit of a mouthful, but we fundamentally started out to harness and to give purpose to the incredible experience, insight, talent and wisdom that's locked in all of us as individuals, but especially older people. And at the time when we started out, there was almost nothing that older people had in order to channel that incredible experience. And it's just been wonderful to see over the last 10 years, as we've been on our journey, just how our members have thrived and flourished. They've contributed to literally tens of thousands of opportunities, thousands of research projects. They've helped hundreds of businesses to innovate, to bring that insight, that knowledge, to develop products and services which are needed in all societies globally in order to help people to live fulfilling, prosperous lives. And we're incredibly proud of that membership. I have the honour with Nic of hosting and directing VOICE, but VOICE is really the power of all of those individual members who just give their time, their energy and their collective insight and wisdom. And we are hugely grateful to everything that they've achieved. VOICE is now on an exciting journey in that, obviously, as David said, this issue is everywhere, it's global. And so establishing in the US, in Canada, in Australia, in Melbourne, with China, with Italy, across Europe. And it just reflects just what we've heard today from our speakers and from the amazing businesses, that this is something that we desperately need these wonderful organisations to flourish. No one organisation can do this, so we need that network of stakeholders working in collaboration to make sure that we are really able to harness that incredible potential that's locked in all of us. And as I think as Nic said at the start, this is intergenerational. So much of when we talk about ageing and longevity, we think immediately of older people. But longevity is about opportunity, it's about choices, and it's about the life course. So we are as interested in a 6-year-old as a 106-year-old. And what's important is that organisations that are represented here today are able to give people those opportunities. And so it's an absolute pleasure to be part of today's competition. And full marks to David, ILC and the team, and us at the National Innovation Centre for Ageing and Voice. We are incredibly proud to be alongside it. We do love working with all of the organisations that are represented today, and I think it's been a hugely difficult decision to have a winner. But the NICA Voice Work for Tomorrow Community Award, we've awarded to Brave Start. Brave Start, as you heard from Lucy earlier, is a community-based platform, and what we particularly loved, and it was praised by all of the judges, was for its simplicity of how it offers a programme. It offers really, really practical advice and guidance, links up with professionals in that area, and helps people to build the right confidence and skills. It's absolutely fantastic. And we are very much looking forward to continuing to support Brave Start and to make sure that, you know, we can be perhaps alongside you on the journey. But, you know, Lucy, please come up and receive the Community Award.
Do you want to say a few words, Lucy? Do you want to say, you know, thank your mum, your dad, thank, you know, family, friends?
Okay. Really don't have anything prepared, but just to say, I guess I'm just going to reiterate. I'm sorry, I know it's really dull. You guys don't have to do this. None of you have to be here today, and I know what it takes to take time out of your day to pull a competition together that doesn't necessarily do anything for you guys personally. All right, this is all about providing a stage, recognition, and opportunity for other people to get their platform and their ideas out there. And that's what we need. So thank you for doing it when nobody else did. Thank you.
Great, thank you very much. And finally, and I should say, you know, Lily wouldn't let me, but you know, even the last 10, I was sort of, you know, can we not give them all a prize? And then when we got to the last 5, it was like, look, we could have an Asia Pacific award, and we could have an award for every, you know. And Lily said no, she wouldn't let me. But anyway, so we did have to make a choice. And I'd really like to invite Councillor Karen Robinson, who is the Sheriff and Deputy Lord Mayor of Newcastle, to join us here on the stage and say a few words. Thank you.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, I'm so impressed. I don't know about you, but I am so impressed. I don't know how the judges made the decision. I don't know how you squeezed it down to just 5, because everybody was just blown my mind. When you get older, you know, you're a bit of a book, aren't you? So you get older and you go through the chapters, and you see the back covers coming forward and ready to close. And then after hearing about all the positive things that can happen today, slam that cover back down and put in another chapter. That's what I would say to people. Just get on with it and live your life as much as you can, right till the very end, until you're forced to drop. So back to the important bit. Over the past year, ILC has run Work for Tomorrow, an international competition supported by IRC for HR, to identify the most promising innovations responding to longer working lives. Work for Tomorrow has received almost 50 applications, it says on here, but I'm being told it's actually nearly 60. From Australia to the Philippines, the US to Ireland, that look to support health and well-being in the workplace, support skills and lifelong learning, address discrimination, and facilitate flexibility. Following careful consideration and deliberation by the competitor's international judging panel, I am now delighted to announce Labora Tech as the winner of the World for Tomorrow competition. Seeking to revolutionise recruitment by reducing bias and supporting career changes and flexibility at work, Labora Tech is an end-to-end HR technology that helps include workers of all ages at scale. Labora Tech already has a community of more than 20,000 adults engaged in the platform and is seeking to expand this business in Brazil and across the world to encourage more employers to retire the CV. And I think that's marvellous saying, I'm loving that. And take the skills-based approach to recruitment and reduce bias and improve outcomes. Well done, Labora Tech. I'm not sure whether we have any clever CGI where I pass it through the screen and Sergio gets it at the other end. That would be quite good. But Sergio, well done. Would you like to say a few words?
Well, I'm just really honored and moved. Thank you very much. It's been a long way up to reaching here. And I feel it's just the beginning. I'd love to really go much further. Just in Brazil, we have more than 50 million seniors, people up above 50 years old, and we're completely invisible. So the 22,000 people that we have on board already, it's just the beginning. And such award, it's really important for us to really go forward and grow. And so I'd like to thank very much for making this competition, making the room for us to join so many great initiatives from all over the world. I think we can learn a lot from each other. We can exchange a lot of information, and we can grow together and make this change for everyone. Thank you very much.
am I right in believing it's photo time?
Thank you all very much. We have, can I perhaps ask all of our finalists to come up to have a photo taken, if that's good? So we have some finalists behind us, and we have you. So please, you're allowed to get a bit closer. Go on. And we'll take a few photos from here. How do you want to? Yeah, absolutely. You can hold it on behalf of Sergio. And Sergio, I think we'll try and get our colleagues over in Brazil, Alex Kalash, perhaps to present it formally at some point for you. We all come. Yeah, we'll all come over. We'll all come over. So do we all come? Yeah. We'll come over some beef and some, caipirinha on the Copacabana. Yeah, we didn't ask where you were. Yeah. Brilliant. Thank you all very much. And let me, formally sort of close the session. Thank you again to the Innovation Resource Centre HR, for all of our judges. Thanks to the speakers, thanks to everyone who entered the competition, and thanks to Lily for making it all happen. For those of you, you are welcome to join us now. Reception just outside the auditorium, and for those of you who are not, particularly for those of you, David, I'm sorry, it's now 4 o'clock in the morning, but actually, and time for breakfast almost. Thank you all for joining us, and we hope to join you again in the future. Thank you.